Hey yo bro, what's a chord? Chord is the layering of several tones played simultaneously. Chords are placed in a sequence to form chord progressions, which can dictate the emotion and feel of a composition. Remembering that a chord is a group of notes played together simultaneously. The most basic form of a chord is called a triad. That's 3 notes. You have 1, 2, 3 notes played together simultaneously. When creating chord progressions, chords can fall into something called scales. The most basic form of scales are usually the major and minor scales. However, there are many other scales, but they're also derived from the major and minor scales with a unique sound to themselves. Now I'm going to show you how you can create chords, major and minor, in the piano roll without any music theory. Just being able to count, you'll be able to create major chords and minor chords and therefore then create progressions. Let's get to it. So let's create a minor chord triad, which means it'll consist of 3 notes because it's a triad, remember? And let's say we chose C as our key, which means we'll be using the scale of C minor. So we start with our root note C, and then we'll just count here. So C, our root note, will count as 0, 1, 2, 3. Then from here we'll go from 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that'll be our triad right there. So the code you have to remember for all minors is 0, 3, and 7. So in this case, 0 would be C, 1, 2, 3 would be D sharp, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be your G. What's interesting is to make this minor a major, all we have to do is focus on this middle note, this D sharp, and play it up 1 to E, and it would become a major. Just like that. So for minors, it will be 0, 3, and 7. And for majors, it's 0, 4, and 7. That's all the numbers you have to remember. Or you could just remember minors are 0, 3, and 7. And to go to major, just make sure you take that 3 and turn it into a 4. Easy. Just remember that and you got your counting. You'll always remember how to get a major and a minor. And a chord progression is just these majors, minors, or any type of chord played in a sequence. So how do you form a good chord progression? Generally, most chord progressions are formed by 4 chords. The number 4 is very recurring in music, can be found in nearly structural patterns like number of bars, rhythmic notations, just to name a few. Therefore, I recommend sticking to 4 when you're starting out basic, and you can always change and go up from there. So here's a sequence of steps you can use when creating chord progressions. First step, pick a scale, a major scale, a minor scale, or any of the existing scales. Major scales are for more happy, uplifting feels, and minor scales are for darker, sadder feels. Next, you can choose a key, but here's a bit more subjective, so you can randomly choose a key, and later you can always adjust it. Step 2, add your first chord. I recommend starting with triads and actually using it throughout the whole progression until you're done. When you're done, if you feel like you want to add more fullness, you can add more notes. Step 3, for your second chord, you can choose any chord with at least one shared note with your first chord. This doesn't have to be any specific note, but you can try a few chords and see how they feel. Minor chords tend to give a more dramatic, saddening tone, while major tones have a more joyful tone. So you can create the second chord based on the first chord that you put in. For your third chord, you could do the same process as you used for your second chord. However, when it comes to your fourth chord, you want to look for a note that is on either your first chord or your third chord, or even both, because we want to close the loop. Music is all about creating problems and solving them. You want your chord progression to come to a resolution. So for your fourth chord, you can look for a note in either your first or third chord, or even both, just to make it come to a resolution. And remember, these are not solidified rules. This is just a guideline, steps you can take when creating chord progressions so you can have and conceptualize the way you're creating chords and make great chord progressions. Dare to experiment, try new things, see what sounds good. Chords are not the only thing in the melodic section of beats. You have top lines. This kind of stuff is really more addicting. It's that catchy part. Sometimes you can't get it out of your head. It's so repetitive. It's so good. I'm going to show you how you can make great melodies and create your own formula to make great melodies consistently like it's second nature. I'm going to show you what makes up a melody. So I guess I'll just see you in the next part of this module.